Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Hello, it's Dr. Gemma, and this is episode 234 of the new series of the Cognitive Podcast, and this one is going to be called Yarn Crawling. Do you want to guess what I did last weekend? Now, for anybody who's listening to hear one of the yarn store interviews and reviews, I have a lot of material on that. So I am going to start today by just talking about Letelier, to be an American, on Ventura. Next episode, that'll be 235, I'm going to go back and talk about the new Altered Stitch, which terribly impressed with both of these stores. And also I have an interview with a professional knitter. So I have a whole lot of stuff. So right now, 234, we're just going to stay with Letelier. And then 235, the Altered Stitch. And I'm thinking about releasing that interview with the knitter as an individual, like a 235A. Or I may include it in 236. But I want to give you the schedule because I don't want you to sit here and listen for the thing you're most interested in and not get it. Yes, we strive to be witty, humane, and compassionate here at Cognitive. Having said all that, in the warm thanks department, I want to talk to DC Elaine Knits yet again because I may have caught your bird flu, because I'm still enjoying that wonderful picture of your flock. In case you're wondering, Elaine posted this over on our group on Ravelry. You can contact me on that group, or you can contact me on this blog at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com. Nonetheless, that picture is over, I think, on episode 232, but you have to go look in the show notes there over on Ravelry in our group. It's a great picture. And also, when you wrote back and said, thanks for the ticket on the guilt train, thank you for making me scream out loud with laughter. Of course, Elaine is talking about the fact I gently chided her for saying that she had bought some purplish and a dark skein of Malabrigo Rios. So Elaine felt that she should explain that. And she says, these were mystery one-of-a-kind skeins, so no real names. Quite a risky move to buy these on my part, but they were $10 a piece plus the shipping, which is a good deal for Rios. It certainly is. It certainly is. I'm not at all surprised you bought them. I think I may have done that once or twice myself in the past. In the meantime, good old Sal Pal, thank you for the warm words about my wanderings. Now, the part that I do not tell y'all is that I have to drive 25 minutes to get to the train to leave the Antelope Valley region and the Santa Clarita Valley and go south towards San Fernando and LA. However, once I do that, the connections do get pretty good. So it's not a perfect system. We don't have good transit up where I am, up in the hills above the desert. But I'm happy to be able to get to the train and do it this way. Amy Storm, I want to tell you I'm loving that gnome's colors. I too had a gnome addiction until my young Minerva began trying to bite them all. And that made them leak. And what they were leaking was their stuffing, which was leeks. So they're still sitting, waiting to be darned. I'm so embarrassed to say. I also agree with you. I also feel sort of overwhelmed in consignment stores. And for me, because I have allergies, they smell often of strong detergent, which makes me feel sick. And this is why my dress code involves clothes that I make myself with things like leggings and t-shirts and turtlenecks from my races and whatnot added in. I want to point out that Amy is recommending Matilaha Nursery in Moore Park, which specializes in native plants. So there's a day trip for me, because there's also a new yarn shop out in Simi Valley inside the town center. And that's the knitting lounge. And she says, yes, there's lots of other places there to browse or eat nearby. Yes, that's quite a day's expedition, and I may be trying that one of these days. I give you the link to the knitting lounge, by the way, in the show notes. Turbo Gal says, I'm so enjoying hearing about your Los Angeles adventures, thank you, all in caps, by train and bus. It's striking how much of our local area we don't explore because it's always there. I'm reading a book called Local by Alistair Humphreys, and by the way, I have a link there in the thank you section to the book, which is all about deeply exploring one small map area over the course of the year. The author is a travel writer and started to question his carbon footprint because he's flying all over the world to explore new places. So he gave himself the challenge of exploring locally. I love that you are doing that. You and the book are inspiring me to do the same. I would tell you also to have a peep at his other book called Micro Adventures. It sounds like in Local, he talks about what he found when he explored. Micro Adventures sounds more like a suggestion, like here's a book about what would happen if we all did this. I have yet to find out, but the links to both of these are in the show notes. Meanwhile, as always, I would like to thank my community in this group, all my listeners on the ground here in the SCV and on Reddit. And you can see one of the Reddit images that the amazing N30 Nix, she keeps making images of me as a ferret. That's part of my name on Reddit. So there I am feeding the doves and the pigeons as a ferret. I'm feeding them pretzels. I'm hoping this won't interfere with their digestion. But I like it because the ferret's grinning, which is me all over. Meanwhile, Cognitive Fiber Retreat 11 is scheduled for October 11th, 2025. So mark your calendars. So far, I'm thinking we'll be in the same place. But I don't think we're going to have the big meeting space. I think, in other words, I'm not going to rent the conference room. I'm just going to keep our costs down. The vendors, if they would like to come, they can use their rooms. And in the meantime, we'll just have this get together, but I think it's going to be at that hotel, and it's just community time to be together. But if you would like to teach a class at CFR 11, please contact me. You can get me through the blog if you like. You can get me on Ravelry, where I am Gemma DW, as in Gemma Dog Walk. Okay? So please, if you want to teach a class, let me know. Meanwhile, what's on my hooks and needles? Well, I had to finish something. I was climbing the walls. So I finished my emotional support chicken. That is Tail Feather Swift. There she is. Of course, her real name is Karen. And there she is in all her glory. I do believe that yarn is Hobby, Hobii. I do believe that is the Carnival colorway. And they call it a lightweight worsted. That's the only colorway I could find that included those colors that looked that way. However, this did not feel like a lightweight worsted, and also it was yucky. It felt oily. I've never had a yarn that quite felt that way. The red that is her contrast color, that deep burgundy, I have no idea who that is. That could certainly be just a red heart. The important thing here, you're buying acrylic yarn in these kits. And that's good because that keeps the moths away. And it's common in crocheted amigurumi, certainly, to use acrylic yarns, not to use wool because we don't want bugs. So there she is, Karen, alias Tail Feather Swift, in all her glory. Really fun knit, really interesting. What I would tell you is this is for an adventurous beginner because you have to be willing to do some hand sewing. About 2/3 of her outline is the seaming. And the seaming looks fine. I don't have any problems with the way she looks. She's sitting on my desk staring at me in her beaky way right now. She looks great. It's a great kit. The instructions are not quite as painfully clear as the Woobles, but they're very clear. And I think a beginner could do this. It's only one stitch. It's just garter stitch. You're just doing knit stitch. I think the only reason I say adventurous beginner is it feels real weird when you're making it. And you have to just have faith in the process because it's going to look weird. I got about halfway through her back before I began to understand how she was going to take shape. I began to see the mechanics. I do not normally do knitted amigurumi. I've done one teddy bear. And teddy bears are a very different matter than this. This one has a lot of really clever shaping and whatnot. So I think if you're a fairly new knitter, you can do this, but you have to be prepared for that finishing work. And basically you need the knit stitch, increases, decreases, color changes, and then the sewing on of the pieces, which is not at all hard and should not be intimidating. And you need a lot of stuffing because that doesn't come in the kit. And you need the needles. They recommend size 7. That worked very, very well for me. I didn't look at gauge, but she's a nice big heavy chicken sitting on my desk. And if you stuff her carefully in layers. This is what I learned from the Woobles, and it's a good trick. Don't just grab a big hunk of stuffing and shove it in there. You take the stuffing in sort of handfuls and flatten them out into layers and then push it in, because you're going to have to shape her head. You have to get stuffing into the beak without the beak being overstretched. And then you have to get it into the head, and you sort of roll the head between your hands and shape it a little. And then you work down her neck. Now, what I did, I took the last piece, which is this oval that goes on the bottom of her, and I sewed that on by hand without doing any stuffing. Okay, and that will take you, that oval starts at the middle of her chest in the front, and you seam it down both sides of the oval. And it goes right exactly to the end of the bottom tail feather. Okay, so it's really nice. I mean, it's a really, really good design. So I did all that, and I left the tail open, which is a weird feeling, stuffing her from that direction, I must admit. And then when I got the whole body and head and all that stuffed, all I had was the tail. And so I sewed the top feather shut down to the divide between the top and the second feather. And then I carefully stuffed that and shaped it. Then I sewed the second feather, stuffed and shaped. Then I overstuffed just a little bit and filled the last feather and sewed her closed. And then you kind of roll her bottom back end a little bit to get the bits of stuffing to distribute into her tail. This is why you don't want to do a big handful. You're doing it in little pieces, in layered pieces, because that allows you to shift the stuffing around after she is sewn shut. This may sound intimidating. It's not at all when you're working on it. A lot of this is going to be really obvious. Under In Progress, I did include the pictures of her, the last pictures as I finished the head with the beak, and then the body with the oval on the bottom, and then I wanted you to see the back end of her too. Okay, and I just wanted you to see the last laps, as I call it. Now, when I stuffed her head, the beak to me was a little gappy looking. This is incredibly easy to fix. There is a lot of yarn in this kit. I had plenty of leftovers of all the colors. So I took a strand of that yellow and I just wove it around the outer edge of the beak in and out of the stitches, and it looks just great. I'm looking at it now. And that took care of whatever gappiness was there. So this is the Emotional Support Chicken. I believe it's by Annette Corsino. Usually they attribute it to the Knitting Tree LA, but that's her pattern. Fabulous pattern. Highly recommend it. On the Knitting Tree site, you can actually buy kits for specific chickens with different color designs. In Progress. Well, I went to 2 yarn stores and I bought 10 skeins, okay? Let's just admit it. 6 skeins of bulky in just blue denim, because I want a bulky blue sweater, bulky dark blue. And I bought 4 skeins for a vest in Wales Road, because you may remember I made a brick, which is a long sleeve sweater in Wales Road about 2 years ago now. And I love it. I wear it with everything. So I thought, time to do a vest in Wales Road. You say, but don't you have a vest in denim? Yeah. And also in kind of a green blue. Yeah. Hey, look, I wanted to buy something from them, and they had what I needed. Okay, meanwhile, of course, by the way, this is all Malbrigo. Of course it is. And then I did the LA yarn crawl. I did it on Sunday because Saturday was cold and rainy. So Saturday I just spent down in the Santa Clarita Valley in Barnes & Noble and then eating sushi, drinking coffee. It was wonderful. I didn't sleep all night. Too much caffeine. Yes, yes. However, Sunday morning, I woke up way energized after only about 6 hours of sleep. And I said, gonna do that yarn crawl. And I had all these ambitious ideas, and I decided not to. I decided instead, I wanted to go back to Ventura Boulevard. And I thought, okay, that's L'Atelier and La Knitterie Parisienne. I didn't want to go back to La Knitterie Parisienne. It's a perfectly good store, but it's way down on the East End by Universal City. And I just didn't want to drive down there. I wasn't sure where I would park. L'Atelier, really easy parking, because I parked next door at Gelson's Market, where I had a little bit of cheese for breakfast. Then I went and had a blast at L'Atelier, and I will include the interview there. And then I said, well, can't get any better than this. And now, you may remember I had said the Altered Stitch had closed, or was going to close. I think I mentioned this on 233 or 232. Well, they didn't. What they did was they sold to a new person, and the new person busted her chops to get it to open again. And by some miracle, she says it's her and her boyfriend. Seriously, the new location, she brought in a lot of the fixtures and shelves and the yarn. So the new Altered Stitch is now on Balboa Boulevard. This is a lot nicer for me. This is much easier for me to reach than it was where it used to be over on West Magnolia in Valley Village. Oh, this is so much easier for me. Oh, I see good times ahead. And both the stores, like it's one after the other. You drive down Balboa, you pass the new Altered Stitch, and then you get to Ventura. Like a few blocks later, and you're close to Gelson's, great lunch, L'Atelier, incredible community, great yarn, and La Knitterie Parisienne, unbelievable supply of interesting stock. So this is as good as it gets. If we had to lose the Altered Stitch over in Magnolia, I'm really thrilled where they moved to. Slightly smaller space. We'll come back to that next episode, but I just cannot say enough good things about L'Atelier on Ventura. It's on Ventura at Havenhurst, in case you're looking at a map. And the new Altered Stitch on Balboa at the just southeast of the intersection of Van Ness. So there is a picture of yet more Wales Road. Yes, more Wales Road. And there's a picture of the Altered Stitch and pictures of me and Larry the llama at L'Atelier, because when I go to L'Atelier, I must do Larry pictures. You may notice, if you look at previous episodes where I did a Larry picture, he's been updated a bit. I got to tell you, I love the ribbing across the top of his nose. And meanwhile, I continue to plug away at the novice slipover. Right now, I'm saying in the notes that I'm working in the round down the front. I have to admit, I started the ribbing right now, and I'm very, very happy about that. No work on anything else, although, I'm jammed on a sleeve in the Virgo sweater for no good reason. I should really just sit down and crank it out. My plan was finish the chicken. Sorry, Karen, you're just the chicken now. And then I wanted to go back to one of my big projects, either the Virgo sweater or the novice slipover. I decided to go for the novice slipover because I have yarn for at least 2 more vests in the background. So I thought, let's get the novice slipover out of here. I'm also still haunted by the fact that Vestuary 2024 took me about a year to make. So, I'm finished Vestuary 2025. That was my hand-spun one, my first novice slipover. Now I'm trying it in Malabrigo Rios Water Green to see how it works in a commercial yarn instead of a hand-spun. It's working very, very nicely. So I'm going to put that on and see how that fits. And so when I do my next one, which is probably going to be in Malabrigo Rios English Rose, because I want a pink vest, that's where I'll start doing more experiments with fitting it a little more down the sides. But very, very nice, and I'm enjoying it. So after I finish this, I'd like to finish the waffle socks and the Virgo. And then that'll be summer. And hopefully I'll be on small things that I can crochet, like the 10 square bag, which just needs a liner, and the lakeside cardigan, which needs sort of, I think, 3 or 4 blocks, and then to finish the seaming. So that should be pretty easy. And the September sweater, which is 2 big crocheted panels, one of which is done, and 2 arm tubes. And the great thing about that, it's good summer crochet because it's just in pieces. I'm not putting an entire sweater in my lap. That's the plan. Sounds good, doesn't it? And let's not forget, I'd like to get back to the quilt squares. Also, another bit of good news, I just got the box of Karen's shirts from Sunnybank. This is Karen, who my hen is named after, who died recently. And her husband, Joe, said, do you want her Sunnybank shirts? Because she never wore them and I don't know what to do with them and I know you'd appreciate them. So that's looking like it's going to be my next t-shirt quilt. I don't mean to make all these quilts. It's just happening this way. I wanted to get rid of my scraps. Now look at me. Dizzy Blondes, I am still spinning my way through my second braid of camel hair silk. Mainly kumquat with camel hair color and a little bit of purple. And then hopefully I will move on to that just breathtaking kumquat colored Lisa Souza BFL. All of this, of course, is on the Electric Eel 6.1. Whew! Can we do a strategy? You bet we can. So the strategy is actually to do mindfulness in the moment. Now I'm going to be honest, this is coming off a card, as in a playing card, except it's not a game card, it's not a playing card. It's from the DBT, Dialectical Behavioral Therapy, the DBT deck for clients and therapists. Okay, and I saw this the other day, and I was thinking about this in terms of our knitting, but also thinking when I talk to patients about thought stopping, I always talk about it in terms of the acronym ACCEPTS, which are the ways you distract yourself. That's in old episodes. Don't worry, you'll hear it again if you keep listening. Okay, and the T of ACCEPTS is use thought stopping to break painful thinking and to help distract yourself. Okay, and I always do reverse serial sevens at that moment when I train clients, when I train patients. I teach them to count backwards by 7 because when you do math, you can't think of anything else. It shuts off your thinking. And I was looking through the DBT cards after talking to a patient and ran across this one and thought, I really should say this because this card is a really great intersection between mindfulness and what we do as crafters and thought stopping. And it just is this. It says, practice mindfulness in the moment. I'm reading the card now. Mindfulness, it's about being present in the small moments. Spend 10 minutes cleaning an area of your home, immersing yourself in the process. When distractions come up, such as judgmental thoughts, simply refocus on what you are doing. Focus your full attention, non-judgmentally, on what you are doing. So much in a little card. First off, we're talking about mindfulness. For people who have problems with focus, with concentration, mindfulness is a slower paced solution than just hardcore counting backwards by 7 for full stop thought stopping. Okay, mindfulness is a different way to get there. The interesting thing about mindfulness, humans are always trying to do it. They just don't know what they're doing. Okay, so for example, it says spend 10 minutes cleaning an area of your home, immersing yourself in the process. Now, I would tell you, I do that anyway. I wasn't trying to be mindful. What I have learned over time, because I am clinically hyperactive, but no, I do not have ADHD, curiously enough. I'll explain that, how that's possible someday, because it is true, okay? But I clean, as I always say, in 15-minute increments. Now, what is that really about? Because I have a tendency to scattered focus, I'm actually trying to train myself into focus, into mindfulness, into staying present in the moment. Was I doing this intentionally? No. What's going on instead is if I handled things the way my husband does, I want to clean the bathroom, so I spend an hour or an hour and a half doing the whole bathroom. If I did it that way, my attention would wander, I'd get distracted, I would slow down, etc. Because, yeah, keeping my focus there does get challenging. All right, and now I do this every day. I see 6 patients a day. We talk for an hour. So obviously I can do an hour of focus. But the patient is helping me because I'm interested in what the patient is saying. Okay, but when I am on my own, without someone else to help me stay in the moment, like a patient, I work in these 15-minute intervals. I think it's important because I think that's an example of me instinctively trying to do mindfulness and improve my focus. And you can hear when I talk about meditation how I always say no more than 10 minutes twice a day. Well, this is 10 minutes according to the card. But they're saying clean something instead of just sitting still and meditating. Okay, so it's the same idea. You're focused on one thing and one thing alone for 10 minutes, whether you're sitting meditating doing that, staring at a candle flame, thinking about the flame, or whether you're working on your cleaning. So this is a thing humans do naturally, and we want to do it. And we make all sorts of excuses all day long to do it. But here in the Western Hemisphere, we never thought of it as mindfulness. We thought of it as scrubbing the toilet. And it's interesting because if you go to the East, if you go to Asia, they have mindfulness practices about cleanliness. So, there's obvious overlap for good reason that they're the people who really codified mindfulness in a spiritual sense. The West doesn't talk about it that much unless we're learning yoga or something. So the really nice thing here is you've got this overlap between thought stopping through practicing concentrated focus and mindfulness through practicing concentrated focus. But also, if you are depressed, people who are depressed can't get anything done. They get distracted by their painful thinking. And the hardest thing with a seriously depressed person is to get them out of that vegetative state where they sit still and do nothing. That's what this does. It says, don't worry about cleaning your bedroom. Don't worry about a big project like that or cleaning your bathroom, but pick 10 minutes and clean one area. So clear off the top of your desk. I don't do it that way, by the way. I've got so much clutter on my desk. I take one thing off every Saturday morning, believe it or not. You'd be amazed how well this has worked. Also, because I don't put anything new on it. That's the trick. And I'm slowly clearing off my desk and my craft table in here where my computers sit for work. Okay, so this is also a depression thing. Stop focusing on big goals. Just do a little goal. But do it while you think of nothing but the goal. And if you think anything else, push it to the side. Because literally, unless somebody pours gasoline on you and lights you on fire, there is nothing you think about that cannot wait 10 minutes. Nobody's going to die. Meanwhile, my Finch app ID is right there under the strategy. If you would like to join me on Finch, I'd like to thank those of you who have, because Finch is what it is. I can't always tell if the people who are joining me are listeners or if they picked up my ID somewhere else, like someone else's Finch friends page or somewhere on Reddit. Meanwhile, Green Fingers Project Spearmint. Well, today I finished planting the thyme, and I'm still busily planting Texas salvia and a penstemon, if I can figure out which one that is, and Russian sage. And I'm planting these as ground covers to try and just get the parts of our front area between the house and the corrals that were already dedicated to planting. I'm trying to get them back under control before I look at the bigger front area and try to get it all uprooted and turned over and replaced with good soil. So that's been going really, really well. It went really even better this past weekend because I meant to go to the yarn crawl, but the lovely Metrolink train people canceled the trains out of my region that passed through to LA. I mean, they were canceled from the south end of the Santa Clarita Valley right down to LA Union Station. No trains at all. And that's why I took the car Sunday morning. Now, I don't like driving in that region. So what I did was I got out of the house at 8:15 in the morning. And so I got down to Gelson's, was nibbling cheese for a while, and then at 10 popped into L'Atelier. All right. And so we are going to get on to the L'Atelier interview, but there are some lovely pictures of the thyme. Oh, also, when I cut back the 2 China roses, they blossomed like crazy. And in the garden, I found a volunteer, a California aster. I didn't plant it. I never knew it was there. I have no idea how it got there. Thank you very much. But you can also see my happy spearmint bed. The spearmint is thriving. Having been weeded and cleared out, the spearmint is going like a house on fire. The thyme, some of it made it, some of it died, so I was replacing some with the pots that I hadn't planted yet. So I'll shoot. As I said, they canceled the trains from the Antelope Valley down to LA, but that's okay. So I didn't get to meander much, but I did work out on my bike desk. And this coming Sunday, the 25th, I think, I've got my first race of the season. Hooray! But mostly I've told you the I'll shoot already. So I'm just going to roll right on. There are pictures of L'Atelier first, followed by the Altered Stitch. And then you can see my schedule for races. Yes, on May 25th, I have the Forever Brave 5K. A lot of that will be walked. I'm not really in condition to run it, but I'm going to go out and do it because I like that social aspect of the running. And you can see that whole schedule with all its pretty glitzy graphics. On to the fluffy books. I am still listening to Sylvester at night. I had forgotten that the ending gets a bit action-packed. And I'm getting a lot more out of it that the first time through I didn't realize what we were supposed to learn about the character Sylvester. I would kill to know why she's using that name because she has so many classical associations with names. And of course, I'm cursed forever with I Taught Putty Tat, with the Warner Brothers Sylvester. I'd really like to know where she got the name from and what that's referring to because I think there's a reference there. But going through the second time, I did see what she wants you to see and why the female lead and Sylvester are so matched. The first time through, I really just did not get the relationship. I just thought, okay, romantic thing, they get together, sure. The enemies become friends genre, sure. It's a little better than that. And the second time through, the little kid is much funnier. I keep re-listening to the sections where the little kid is tantruming. He's a lot more charming than some of her other brat characters, so I really enjoyed it. Beauvalet, well, you can pretty much predict from beginning to end what's going to happen. She keeps giving you flags in the text, like, hey, it would be a real shame if somehow this happened to Beauvalet. Hey, it would be a real shame if he had to travel all this distance. So I'm not a fan of her historical romances by and large, although I did like The Token Ring a lot, which is kind of on that boundary between a historical romance and, it's not a Regency romance, but like a late 18th century romance, a Georgian romance. So I did like The Token Ring quite a lot. And I know there was one other that I really liked. Oh, The Black Moth, her first novel, which she wrote when she was 17 and may have revised a bit, but I really enjoyed The Black Moth. I really did. I got a kick out of it. So I do like some of them, I guess. How can you tell with her what's a Regency romance and what's a historical romance? Well, the historical romances so far tend to fall in the genre of corny medieval versus rather flashy late 18th century. Her concept of the late 18th century may be very accurate, I might add, but it is a lot of fun. Meanwhile, something I really like, yarn crawling. Why am I saying that? The LA yarn crawl used to be lousy. I mean, when they first started it, there was a store that no longer exists that was running it, and it just wasn't that good. I don't know how to say it. It wasn't that much fun. It wasn't that good. And I really stopped going probably, 7 or 8 years ago, and I've just been ignoring it for years. Well, they've gotten a lot more fun. It's a lot more organized. It was a lot more fun. The games were kind of cool. So I have to say, next year I'm looking forward to it. Meanwhile, I am still on my own yarn crawl because I'm betting I can pick up one of the yarn crawl bags if I want it really cheap and some of those stitch markers and all that. So something I really like, yarn crawling. It really gave me a reason to live. Last Sunday, I had such a good time. I continue to carry the link to the article, 9 Ways You Can Save the Internet Right Now. It's just an interesting read, and it's very thoughtful about what's happening in America with taking down all these health and science websites. Meanwhile, you can also get episodes 50A through 100 in zipped format. This is from the original series of Cognitive back. At that point, we're probably at like 2011 or 12. Now, someone wrote in and said, I missed the first 50. Yes, they'll come back. I don't have enough room on the Proton drive to do more than 50 at a time. And even that is pushing it, let me tell you. So right now, the game plan is to do 50A to 100 zipped through the month of May. I've got June already zipped and waiting to go. That will be 101 through 150. After that, 150 to 200, 201 to the last, I think it's 220 or 222, something like that. And then I will go back and put up any missing things that you request, including the one request for episodes 1 to 50. But I just don't have the space to distribute all that the way I'd like to. So I have to do it 50 at a time. Meanwhile, blather. Last episode was called Happy Moomin's Day. And of course, the implication was I was going to talk about Mother's Day, and I didn't, except for my giant Moomin in my bed, Mucifer. I sleep with Mucifer every night. It's like having a small toddler in the bed, except a very well-stuffed one that you can't smother or roll over on and hurt. Anyway, what did go on Mother's Day? The boys did two things. One was the gift of time, because I mentioned to my husband how he gave that to me in 2024 and how much I loved it. That was the yarn crawl on Sunday, that they just said, go forth, buy yarn, do what you want, have a great day. Of course, this gives them a gift of time away from me. I'm just saying. But meanwhile, on Mother's Day itself, I got up to a bouquet of roses, which was starting to droop, so there was another one in a different place of the house because my husband felt like I shouldn't have droopy roses. Thank you, love. And I got up to beautiful cards and a lot of Moomin gifts. So a little bag with, I think it's the Snork Maiden and Moomin Troll embracing, and a little pouch that you can fit in the bag to carry little things in it. It's going to make a great Knitting Notions bag, I'm sure. I just got Moomined out a little pin of the same picture that's on the bag of the embrace. So very, very sweet. And then we all went out to Barnes & Noble and wandered around for an hour down in Santa Clarita. And then we all went out and got sushi and just had a great time. So it was a very peaceful, quiet Mother's Day, and we just roamed around from like 10 in the morning till about 3 in the afternoon. And I got to come home and do some planting and organizing. All of that made me feel great. Meanwhile, my son is away as I record this here at 7:56 p.m. on May 20th, which is a Tuesday, because he is down getting his head shot as a chorus line guy in The Music Man. We're getting close. We've bought our tickets. It's exciting. He loves it. He's really, really happy doing it. I did the yarn crawl, but I've told you about that. And the boycotts, we're still doing that. You got to keep the faith. You know, you got to make it work. And you have to believe it's working. Certainly Target reports it's working. Now, of course, Amazon is doing things to hide the fact that it works. So anytime there's a sale on anything that's not an Amazon website thing, Amazon goes in and matches it and tries to go lower. So keep that in mind, that when you see a sale on Amazon, that's great. Don't buy from them. Look at the original seller, because that's probably what you need. That's probably where you'll get it the cheapest. So this is how Amazon is handling it. I haven't heard anything if we're having an impact there. I'm pretty sure we are. Starbucks, yeah, there's some problems there. They've basically gone through and renovated stores to take the chairs out. Now, why are they doing that? Because they reintroduced their policy to get us back. You know, after they got rid of DEI, a lot of people were upset. And they gave their new CEO $94 million, but fired 1,100 workers. And Starbucks workers used to have good working conditions. Not so much anymore, let me tell you, because I see some of them in therapy. And all right, so they said, we're going to let you have as many refills as you want of tea and coffee and iced coffee if you're in the store. That sounds really good, except they're going through their stores, renovating them, taking the chairs out. So you can't stay in the store. And it was embarrassing. I went to one of the local ones that had a lot of table and chair space. They had left it empty except for maybe 2 tables and just this giant empty expanse of floor. And they were putting display stuff there. So this is how they're compensating. So, you know, Starbucks, no, I'm really sorry. I used to really admire you guys, but no, I'm really sorry. Meanwhile, I am not accepting followers on the social media platforms because spamming, threats from MAGA people, all sorts of things. So please be aware, if you try to follow me, I'm probably not going to accept you. Then, after all that, you can see the phone number for the toll-free number to the Canadian hotline for LGBTQ plus, trans, whatever, people who are depressed or feeling suicidal, because that's Canada's response to America shutting those down. Okay, you can see a list of the community resources that I use, the books I like, the resources to buy things from, the skills and techniques list, and my own link tree, all of which probably could stand to be updated somewhat, but you can find those links. The calendar of all the events going on for the crafty people that I know about in the Santa Clarita Valley. Now, I have the SCV Free Craft Exchange. That one hasn't been very functional lately. I'm hoping that'll start up again this spring. Meanwhile, you can see my calendar. The good news, Sunday race, Monday day off. So I have a 3-day weekend coming up. And finally, Minerva gets the last word. Her last word is, oh dear, I broke the dog, maybe. There's a picture of Captain on the floor of the bedroom, clearly broken, lying on her back, out of control, totally gone. And Minerva is next to her there with a kind of smirky look on her face. So, Minerva, she loves dogs and she's not above messing with them. Just saying, because we should all be this way, that maybe some forces are bigger than we are, but we still may need to mess with them a little bit. Now, of course, I'd like to thank Captain and Minerva for volunteering for this ridiculous extended metaphor, because Captain's like the nicest dog in the world. Minerva would never hurt him. In fact, they're fond of each other. But thank you. I got to do this in a podcast episode. In the meantime, please remember that we are a community. And when we work for the good of the community, we are working for the good of the individual. That the community serves the needs of the individual. And having said that, everybody, please stay safe, take care of each other, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Okay, so I am doing the LA yarn crawl, although I did not mean to. And of course, I went right back to L'Atelier because they're cool. And I'm talking to
Cora Muirhead.
How is your yarn crawl going?
We've had an amazing yarn crawl. We have had wonderful, wonderful people that we never met before. A lot of returners that we've seen in previous years. We ran out of everything. We give gift bags and free patterns and all kinds of little goodies at our store. We've run out almost every single day. And it's just been wonderful to see the amazing turnout.
This is impressive. What's in the gift bag?
Well, the gift bags originally had, I don't know, but they had some yarn, they had a water bottle, they had a snack, and they had some stitch markers.
That's really, really good. I didn't know you guys were doing anything like this.
Well, Karen, our owner, is very much a fan of treating people to things. And she likes everybody who comes into the store and doesn't know us to go away knowing that we have a lot to give.
Well, please thank Karen on my behalf, because I think it's just really wonderful you're doing that. I'm going to also say, for a store that's running out of everything, I'm happy because I found my wall of Malabrigo. And it still looks to me like you're really fully stocked. So listen, don't be discouraged, peeps. If you want to come down here next weekend when things are quieter again, you're not going to find an empty store.
Oh, no. We ran out of the goodies for the yarn crawl. We have plenty of yarn. And needles and patterns and everything.
Yeah. Okay, so we're at L'Atelier on Ventura. Give me the number.
We're at 16430 Ventura Boulevard.
And you know them because they have the big yarn llama in the front, and usually a big
That's Larry.
Oh.
That's Larry the llama.
I did not know. Now you are kindred spirits because I had llamas for years.
Oh, my goodness.
So, yeah. And so we have Larry the llama, the yarn llama out front. We got the big sign that says yarn usually in the front of it because the building's a little obscure. So that's
People have said it's a bit hard to find, but we are literally the building next to Gelson's at Havenhurst. So.
And I'm just going to say this. See, the trick is you come down. You buy yarn until you're dizzy, and then you go to Gelson's for lunch because they have outstanding salad bars and sandwich bars and everything else. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your talking to us.
It's a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Anything else we should put into this? No pressure.
Nothing I can think of. We're open Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday.
That's a good one, and it doesn't get better than this. This is still one of my favorite yarn stores in the LA region, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.